So let me state problem number 3. So the question is this: let fxy equals to xy times x square minus y square by x square plus y square, and xy not equals to 0, 0. That means the domain is all real numbers, sorry, all R2 except 0, 0, because if I enter 0, 0 in the function is undefined. You see, I have to show that the limit at 0, 0 of the function is 0. So exactly the same way of starting. So let us choose any number epsilon greater than 0. Then we'll find this, right? We'll find this. So now what do we find? Modulus of fxy minus 0. It will start by finding this quantity. If this quantity is, we'll see, we have to find some delta satisfying this condition. So which is same as modulus of xy, x square minus y square by x square plus y square, right? And minus 0 will not make any sense. So just fxy. So the property of modulus, I can write modulus of x, modulus of y, and modulus of x square minus y square by x square plus y square. Okay, very obvious. Now, since as already said, we'll be using this result again and again, mod x is lesser equals to root over of x square plus y square, mod y is lesser equals to root over of x square plus y square, and modulus of x square minus y square by x square plus y square. What kind of number is this? Who can tell me? It is a number less than 1, more than 1, or what? Can you tell me? Look at this quantity. First of all, it is inside the mod, definitely it is going to be positive. And secondly, the numerator is always less than the denominator, because the numerator is x square minus y square and the denominator is x square plus y square. So numerator is always less than the denominator. In that case, this number is less than 1. Am I clear or not clear? It can be equal also for some case. Will it be equal? Yeah, definitely. When y is 0 but x is 1, it may be equal. But it cannot exceed 1. Do you agree with me? Because the numerator is always less or equal to the denominator. Am I clear or not clear with this line? Yeah. So just use this fact. So this is this. Instead of this, lesser equal to this. Instead of this, lesser equal to this. Instead of this, lesser equals to 1. So therefore, modulus of fxy minus 0 is lesser equals to root over of x square plus y square 2 times. So this is mod for mod x, this is for mod y, and for the mod of x square y minus y square by x square plus y square, that will be 1. So or modulus of fxy minus 0 is lesser equals to x square plus y square. This is less than epsilon if x square plus y square is less than delta, where delta square, where delta equals to root over of epsilon. Right? I'm choosing. So when will this be less than epsilon? Whenever x square plus y square is less than epsilon. So instead of epsilon, I'm taking a new number delta square. What is delta square? Root epsilon. So whenever, so therefore, and definitely I should take this as greater than 0. So therefore, y greater than 0, because if x and y both are 0, then fxy is not defined. So this should be greater than 0. That means x and y not both are 0. So therefore, for any epsilon positive, there exists a number delta, which is nothing but delta is depending upon epsilon, right? So there exists a number delta which is epsilon by 2, which is root epsilon, such that for all satisfying 0 less than x square plus y square less than delta square. This whole thing is inside the domain, so I don't have to write intersection the domain of the function, because the domain of the function has this, implies fxy minus 0 is less than epsilon. So give me any positive number epsilon, I can find a delta which is root over of epsilon, such that for any number, any x comma y satisfying this and lying in the domain, this will hold. So therefore, by the definition of limit xy tends to 0 0 of the function is nothing but this value is coming as 0. Okay, so this is the proof, or this is my answer to the question. Okay, so whatever question I have done till now, like I have done 3 questions based on limit, and I have now given 1 question as a homework. You see, in all of these cases, I calculated the limit at the point 0 0, and the answer was 0. So it is not like that we will only do sums based on limits, finding the limits at the point 0 0. It can be any non-zero number as well. So I'll show that question next. So the question is, show that limit x comma y tending to 1 2, and what is the function given to us? X square plus 2y. This is 5. I have to prove that this limit has a value 5. xy tending to 1 2. So again, you give me any number epsilon, I have to find some neighborhood, deleted neighborhood around 1 2, okay, such that whenever this x comma y lies in that deleted neighborhood, then this quantity is less than epsilon. This minus this is less than epsilon. So this is the same definition of the limit that we are following. So we'll start. So same logic solution. Let epsilon be any number greater than 0. We shall start by this quantity, right? This is my function. The domain this time is R2. My function is defined for every pair x comma y, right? Minus 5. fxy minus the limiting value, sorry, limit value. The limit value is 5, and this is the function. I have to find all those xy in some neighborhood for which this quantity is less than epsilon. Am I clear why I am doing this? Just following the definition. fxy minus limit value. I will have to show this is less than epsilon whenever x comma y lies in some deleted neighborhood. So here is some manipulation. I'll write this 5 as minus 1 and 4. Okay. So this manipulation that I am doing, like, just think that why I am doing this. You just put here x equals to 1, so this will give me 1 square, and if I am putting here 2, this will give me 2 to the 4. So I am breaking it this way, 1 and 4. I am breaking this 5 as 1 and 4, and that is the reason that this answer is 5. You know, like you have done in your lower studies in class 11 or 12, whenever the function is defined, you put the value, no? So if I give you this, you'll put here 1 and you will put here 2. You see, 1 square is 1 plus 2 square is 4, 1 plus 2 is 5. 5 is the answer. So that is true in case of multi-variable function also. This is what I did here, right? But I am using now epsilon delta definition to prove that the value will be 5. So I am breaking this 5 as 1 plus 4. So there was minus, so minus 1 minus 4. Now again use the triangle inequality. Consider this as A and consider this as B. So this is lesser or equals to mod A plus mod B, or this is exactly equal to mod of x minus 1, mod of x plus 1, do not ask why, and if I take 2 common, this is mod of y minus 2. I hope am I clear, right? So leave it up to here. First of all, let me tell you now a few things, how to simplify this, or how this is, or when this is less than epsilon. What I'll do, I'll consider this number to be less than delta. What is delta I will calculate, and also this number to be less than delta. This time we will not find the circular neighborhood, but rather we'll choose the rectangular neighborhood. So remember, while writing the definition of the limits, I had written there where n is the circular or square or rectangular neighborhood or any other neighborhood. Just neighborhood is enough. Okay, inside that I can find a ball, open ball, right? So I'll consider this as less than delta, this is less than delta. So what I'll write, this is less than 2 delta plus 2 delta. Wait, I'll explain. I am considering this as less than delta. Just a minute. When 0 less than x minus 1 less than delta, 0 less than y minus 2 less than delta, I am considering this as less than delta, I am considering this as less than delta, and delta is greater or equals to, not equals to 0, basically greater than 0 and less or equals to 1. I'll tell you why this is happening. I am choosing a number delta. What is the exact value of delta? I'll tell you a bit later. So I am considering this quantity as less than delta and this quantity also less than delta. So it's very simple to see this is less than 2 delta because this is less than delta. So this will become 2 delta and this is delta. But why this is less than 2, I'll understand. I'll make you understand, don't worry about it. I am claiming that this is less than 2. So this is less than 2, this is less than delta, so this is 2 delta and again 2 delta. This is happening. But you might be thinking, why can I write that this quantity is less than delta? Or less than 2, less than 2. I'll tell you why. So am I clear up to here? So let me proceed. You see here what I am assuming. This is just for the explanation why x plus 1 is less than 2. What I am assuming that 0 less than x minus 1 less than delta. So, just forget about this one. Just take this. Mod x less than delta, that means x is less than delta but greater than minus delta. This is the definition of mod x less than delta. So, whenever mod x is less than delta, so mod x is less than delta and greater than minus delta. So, what you do? You just add 2. Or forget about adding 2. Let's add 1. This is 1 minus delta. This is x and this is 1 plus delta. I'm just adding 1. So if I'm adding 1 here, 1 and 1 getting cancelled, plus 1. And again add 1 because I want to see the lowest and the highest value of x plus 1. Right? So adding 1 again. So x plus 1 less than 2 plus delta. Just see here, x plus 1 is a number between 2 minus delta and 2 plus delta. Okay, x plus 1 is a number between 2 minus delta and 2 plus delta. So I can choose delta to be very small such that x plus 1 is less or equals to or less than 2, I can say. Am I clear? Or less or equals to 2 will be enough. Like I can take this delta to be very small. If that is not very much satisfying, like why this, like you may say, sir, delta may be 0.00000. This is a quantity less than that. It may not be less than 2, but definitely if you are not very much convinced, I may choose that as less than 4 also. What is the problem? Right? So now if you are not happy why I am writing there 2, what I can do, I can make this 4. This is the 100% guarantee that this will be of less than 4 for sure. Or 3 or anything. You can also write 3. I am choosing 4. 4 is my lucky number. Okay. So this quantity is definitely going to be less than 4, just because you may see here that x plus 1 is less than 2 plus delta, and 2 plus delta is definitely going to be less than 4, even if delta is 1, because I am assuming that the highest value of delta is 1. So x plus 1 is less than 3. To be on a safe side, I am considering that as 4. So am I clear now or not clear? So what I have, I'll write it here. Therefore, modulus of x square plus 2y minus 5 is less than 4 delta plus 2 delta, that is 6 delta, when 0 less than x minus 1 less than delta, and 0 less than y minus 2 less than delta, where 0 less than delta lesser equals to 1. The highest value of delta being 1. And this is nothing but, you see, this is the rectangle square neighborhood around the point 1 comma 2. I'll explain that diagrammatically, don't worry about it. So just assume, just consider this. But I wanted this to be less than epsilon. But x square plus 2y minus 5 is less than epsilon whenever 6 delta is less than epsilon, right? So this quantity will be less than epsilon when 6 delta will be less than epsilon, or delta, or you may not equal to also. 6 delta equals to epsilon, when this is exactly equal to epsilon, or delta equals to epsilon by 6. So my delta depends upon epsilon. Okay, so give me any positive number epsilon, I will get delta this way. Delta is epsilon by 6. Am I clear or not clear? Now one more thing is there to understand. I am assuming that this condition holds when delta is lesser equals to 1. So in that case, if epsilon is a very bigger quantity, like suppose I am taking, like usually we take epsilon to be very small, no, like 0.001, but there is like epsilon can be a big number also. What if epsilon is a very big number, like epsilon is suppose 100? In that case, 100 by 6 is not less than 1. So you choose delta to be this or 1, whichever is smaller. That is, I am choosing delta minimum of epsilon by 6 and 1. So if this quantity is a quantity less than 1, I'll choose that as my delta. Or if this is getting bigger, than 1, I'm choosing delta to be 1. So this is definitely be satisfied. Okay, so just a point. So I have got this one. So thus for any epsilon greater than 0, there exists a delta such that for all x comma y satisfying this condition. I have this time got the deleted square neighborhood. Satisfying this implies modulus of x square plus 2y minus 5 is less than epsilon. Therefore, what is the limit at the point 1 comma 2? Limit x comma 1 goes to 1 comma 2. Why 1 comma 2? Because look at the things. 1 comma 2 of this function is nothing but 5. I'll tell you what kind of neighborhood is this. I'll show you diagrammatically. Don't worry about it. I'll explain everything again. So basically, this was my axis. This is the point 1. This is the point 1. This is the point 2. The point was 1 comma 2. I wanted to find the limit at this point. What I did, I chose some delta. Suppose delta is half. Suppose. So I considered this. This is 1 minus delta. This is 1 plus delta. Right? This is 1 plus delta. This is 1 minus delta. So all those x lying inside this band are of this form. So x minus 1 is less than delta. Similarly, around 2 I considered delta. So this is 2 minus delta. This is 2 plus delta. So basically, I am interested in this neighborhood, this square neighborhood. Any point inside this neighborhood satisfies this. X minus 1 is less than delta and y minus 2 is less than delta. So I wanted to find the limit at this point. So around this point I have to find some deleted neighborhood. So leaving 1 and 2, so greater than 0, that will that means 1 cannot be here, and greater than 0, that means 2 cannot be here. So I am considering this neighborhood. Whenever I have points inside this neighborhood, what kind of neighborhood is this? This is the rectangular neighborhood, or I can say this is a square neighborhood, because delta and delta I am taking, right? So whenever my points are inside this neighborhood, that quantity is becoming less than epsilon. So you have to always find some deleted neighborhood. The deleted neighborhood can be circular. As we were doing in the previous question, we were always considering a circular neighborhood. We were always considering a circular neighborhood. You see, if this happens, and this is what kind of neighborhood? Around 0, 0, it is a circle around 0, 0. But if you check the definition of limit, it can be either circular neighborhood, or it can be rectangular neighborhood, or it can be some other neighborhood as well, and deleted definitely. So am I clear up to here? So we have evaluated so many limits. We'll do some more questions a bit later. Now we had, like, while studying the real analysis course, we had even seen some functions for which the limits does not exist, right? Limit does not exist. So we had so many tests. One test was sequential criterion. If I can find two different sequences converging to the point at which I want to find the limit, but their functional sequences going to two different points, in that case we were saying that the limit does not exist. There was one easy way of also doing these things, like suppose I wanted to check whether this limit exists or does not exist. Limit x tends to a f of x. So in class 11, 12 level, also in undergraduate level, we can also find this limit x tends to a minus. I hope you know the meaning of a minus, and x tends to a plus, and these two, if they are not coming equal, we can clearly say that this does not exist. This does not exist. So right, so whenever the left hand limit and the right hand limit were not coming same, we were simply claiming that so this limit cannot exist. Now understand this geometrically. So this point is a, there is some function, I am not drawing the function. So what is the meaning of this? I am approaching from the left hand side towards a. So we were finding this limit when x tends to if using this path from the left, and we used to find this one when x is approaching a from the right hand side. If these two are coming different, we can say that the limit does not exist. Right? Now consider the case of multi-variable limit or multi-variable calculus, I will say. Now you see, suppose I am talking about this point a comma b. This is a and this is b. So I want to check, I want to get a similar idea here of when the limit cannot exist. So in R1 that means in simple R, in single variable calculus or single variable limits, this limit will not exist if these two are different. This was enough to say. But here we want an analog of this statement. Okay, a similar statement here. You see here, there were only two ways of going to A, either from the left or from the right, because I cannot go beyond this line. I have to always be on this line. So I can either approach A from the left hand side or approach A from the right hand side. But here you have many ways of approaching this point A comma B. You can approach taking this path, exactly this path what I have drawn. You can approach AB using this line. You can approach this path using this curve. You can approach this point using this function. You can approach this way. So there are many ways of approaching to this point, which was not here. Here there were only two ways of approaching it, either from left or from right. But this time this whole thing is my domain, possibly, okay, or a subset of R2. So here I have to be on this line, but here there is no such restriction. I can approach this point using this path. I can approach to this point using this path, or using this path, using this path, and using this path, and so on. Are you getting my point? So if I am approaching towards this black line, this curved black line, I am getting some another value, and if I am approaching towards this red line, towards another value, right? Sorry, let me repeat that again. When I am approaching to this point AB using this black line, and if I am getting some value L1, I am approaching towards this AB to the point A comma B, and I am getting some limits L2. If L1 and L2 are not equal, I can clearly say that the limit at AB does not exist. But remember, there are infinitely many ways of going. There are infinitely many ways of going to this point AB. There are infinitely many paths that you can draw to go to AB. You can draw from here, you can draw from here, and so on. Did you understand my point? Now one more thing I should tell you. Is the converse of this true? That means, suppose, like, not exactly converse I should say, like if I am asking you this, the left hand limit exists and the right hand limit at A also exists, and both are equal. Remember my question. I am telling you, come to single variable, okay? So I am telling you this is existing and this also exists, and they are equal. Then can I write this limit x tends to A fx, suppose their value is L. Can I write this? That is my question. Yes or no? Be very quick. Yes, the answer is yes. Very good. We have done this. We have the proof also in real analysis. Now another way of finding this limits in case of real analysis of single variable, we can also find out the left hand limit and the right hand limit if both are equal and their value is equal to L. I can tell you that the limit of the function at that point will also be L. But this is not the case here. Never do that, because you have to check for every possible path going to AB, and that is not possible. You cannot take. Suppose you are taking this black line, the limit is coming as L. You are taking this red line, the limit is coming as L, and just by checking these two, you cannot say that the limit will exist. Here, there are more than two paths. There are infinitely many paths. You can go towards this, from this line, from here you can go, and so on. Are you getting my point? So here, this will not hold, because if you want to check this, you have to go at the point AB, you have to approach AB towards every path possible. If I am approaching towards this path, the limit is coming L. If I am approaching towards this path, the limit is coming L. towards this also limit is coming L. I have to check for all possible path. If for all possible path the limit is L, then I can say the limit at AB will be L. But remember, checking for all possible path is not at all possible, because there are infinitely many paths possible which can approach towards AB. Right? So this will no more hold for a function for R2, function in R2, R3 or so on. So this will be used for things when the limit does not exist. So I want to prove that the limit at some point does not exist. What can I do? Suppose I will take a path. Suppose the value is coming L1. I will take another path. The value is coming L2. If they are distinct, I can simply claim that the limit does not exist. Am I clear up to here? Please be very honest if you did not understand my point. This is where we have a distinction between limit of several variable, the limit of a function of several variable, and limit of a function for a single variable. This is where the difference is. Now, one last thing. So, let me ask you this converse question. Is the opposite true here? Like, I am asking you this converse question. Suppose limit at x tends to a, fx is L. Then can I say that the left hand limit and right hand limit both will exist and the limit is L? Can I say that? The limit is L. Can I say the left hand limit is also L and the right hand limit is also L? The converse question this time. This is happening, I am asking you this too. The answer is definitely yes. The answer is definitely yes. Because I am approaching towards A from left as well as from right, and I am getting the answer L. Right? So this is a if and only if statement. Now, this thing will also hold here. That means, if I have some function of multivariable, suppose I am talking about two variable only, and x comma y tends to a comma b, and suppose this value is coming as L, suppose, then if you approach this function towards any line, towards any path, towards any curve, then the value will be L. So that will also hold here. If the limit is L, then if you go along this black path, then also the limit will be L. If you go along this one, the limit will also be L. If you go along this one, the limit will also be L, and so on. So this will hold, and this I will store as a theorem. So let me state that. Okay, so when the limit exists, then the limit along any of the path will be same. But remember, the converse is not true. That means you cannot say like that, like if I am going towards this line and this line, and if they are becoming equal, then you can say that the limit exists. No, you have to check for all possible paths, which is not at all possible. Let me state that as a theorem very quickly. So here is my theorem. A very important theorem. This will be essential for showing that limit does not exist. Okay, so I should write the name is something like this: necessary condition for the existence of double limit. So here is the theorem. Let D be a subset of R2 and F be a function from D to R, and let this be a function of two variables and so I have this function of two variables and a comma b be the limit point of D, so that I can find the limit at this point, and this be a limit point of D. Now remember what I am writing. If, so I am definitely assuming that the limit exists. If limit at a comma b fx comma y is some real number L. So I am definitely assuming this if the limit exists. What I said, if the limit exists and is equal to L, and if I go using any path towards AB, then the limit will also be L. That is what the theorem says. So let me state that with this. Then what will happen? Then if you go towards AB using any path, then also your limit will be L. That is what I write exactly. Then limit, understand this, x tends to a f of x comma phi x. I am replacing y as a function of x. Okay, is also L, where what is phi? Where phi is a real valued function of one variable such that x comma phi x belongs to the domain for all x belonging to domain of phi, and limit x tends to a, limit x tends to a phi x is nothing but b. I'll explain, don't worry, let's just write the statement first. I'll explain it to you properly. Let me explain this. So suppose this is my R2 and suppose this is my domain. Not whole R2 is my domain, but only this much is my domain. This is my domain D. This is my domain D. Suppose I want to find the limit at this point. I have some function whose limit at AB is L. Okay, that I am assuming. Now what I am doing, I am taking some function phi x. Right, I am taking some function phi, which is a real valued function of one variable. So suppose this function I am considering. I am considering this function. Okay, so this function is my phi, and this is phi x. Now just you think that this as a function of single variable. So for this value of x, this is the functional value. For this value of x, this is the functional value. For this value of x, this is the functional value, and so on. This is my phi x. What I am doing, this phi is a real valued function of one variable such that x comma phi x belongs to the domain for all x and domain of phi. So remember that I cannot take this curve outside D. So this is what is written here. X comma phi x is inside the domain for all x inside the domain of phi. That means this x is in the domain of the function phi. See, domain of function phi is from here to here. Remember that. So this point is in the domain of the function, and this pair is what? This pair is x comma phi x. If I think this as a point of R2, this point is nothing but x comma phi x. So this ordered pair should be inside the domain. I cannot go outside the domain. And remember that now this is a function of single variable. Just consider this as the function of single variable. Forget about everything. Just look at this curve, and this point is A. Remember that this coordinate is A. So what I have written the last sentence, limit as x tends to A, so you can also draw the function like this also, no? Doesn't matter. This whole is phi x, doesn't matter. So limit, if I find the limit of this function phi x, then that should be B. Then only this phi x will approach B, no? That is my point. So this is what I have written. This I am talking about single variable. This is not multivariable. Okay, this limit definition will be a simple epsilon delta definition that you have done in the real analysis course. So limit of this function at the point A will be B. So when I am replacing y by phi x and phi x is approaching B, so then this will also be L. In simple words, if you go towards AB using any path, then also the limit will be L. That is what is stated in the theorem. If I am going using this path, then also the limit should be L. This is what the theorem is stating. Am I clear or not clear? Okay. So remember the use of theorem. Like this theorem will not be used to find the limit. This theorem will not be used to find the limit. Just because if you want to find the limit using this theorem, then you have to check for all possible paths. That is not at all possible. But what will be the importance of this theorem? That if I can find two different paths satisfying these conditions, remember that. But suppose if I am going to AB using this path, the limiting value is coming as 5. If I am going using this path, the limiting value is coming 7. Then the limit cannot exist. So this will be the importance of this theorem. Okay, I'll use this theorem in the contrapositive manner. No, not contrapositive. Converse. Yes. So if correct one, contrapositive. If this does not hold, then this cannot hold. So when will this does not hold? When I can find two paths. When I can find two paths for which the limiting value are different, then this cannot be equal. The limit cannot be same. Limit does not exist in simple words. So that's all for today. In the next class, I will just a minute, Rajkamal. So in the next class, I'll just do the proof of this theorem. And we'll do some sums where limit does not exist using this theorem. And what Rajkamal said, just like sequential criteria, yeah, see, here also we have a sequential criteria, but that I will not be doing it. Yeah, you can say more or less this is just like the sequential criteria. I can find two sequences of, like in analysis what we have done, if we can find two sequences of sequences whose functional sequences are approaching to two different points, the limit cannot exist. A similar way of saying this, that if I can find two different paths for which the limiting value is not same, then we can say that the limit cannot exist. So this will be very much important for us. So that's all for today. Thank you. If you have any other doubt, please ask.